The silence hit like a dropped tray. 200 delegates, not one of them breathing. Ellis stood there with his hands empty and his jacket, his grandmother's jacket, the wool blend one with the fraying left cuff, draped across the shoulders of a 7-foot-tall silver alien princess who was now flushing a color Ellis had never seen on a face before. An elder rose from the eastern tier. The bonding is witnessed. You know that feeling when you realize you've done something catastrophically irreversible in the span of 4 seconds? Subscribe now. This one's going to hurt in the best possible way. Keep reading. That same jacket had a piece of lint on the left sleeve at 9:14 that morning, and Ellis had been picking at it for 20 minutes in the transport bay because doing something with his hands kept him from hyperventilating. His boss, a deputy attaché Heron, a woman who communicated primarily through controlled sighs, had given him exactly one instruction on the shuttle over. Don't touch anything. That was it. 3 words. Ellis had turned them into a personal mantra for the past 6 hours. Don't touch anything. Don't touch the ornamental dais. Don't touch the refreshment table that was very clearly not for humans. Definitely don't touch the 6 crystalline columns surrounding the main chamber floor, because those apparently were ceremonial load-bearing infrastructure, which was a phrase that shouldn't exist but did. He was good at following instructions generally. He was a junior attaché on his first real posting, 27 years old, 3 months out of the diplomatic corps training program, and deeply, profoundly aware that he was the least important person in this room. Which was fine. Which was the plan. You show up, you stand near the wall, you observe, you don't embarrass Earth. When the jacket was the problem. Not symbolically, not yet, just physically, logistically. Neutral Station Orith 4 kept its human preference climate settings at 16 degrees Celsius, which felt like a light autumn day to Ellis, and apparently felt like an emergency to every Rithani in the room. He'd noticed it the second he walked in, and the temperature was set for them, for the Earth delegation, and nobody had thought to ask whether the other 80-something Rithani delegates might have opinions about that. He'd spotted Seraphel Ve Ithris 40 minutes into the pre-summit reception. Hard not to. She was the tallest person in the room, silver-skinned, with that blue hair that the briefing documents had described as culturally significant, without elaborating further. And she was standing near one of the far pillars, a perfectly composed except Ellis noticed because he noticed things, because noticing was literally his job. Her hands were wrong. Rithani hands, according to the briefing packet, were long-fingered, expressive, built for fine articulation. Hers were pressed flat against her thighs, not expressive, locked down. And her jaw was set in a way that didn't match her eyes, and her eyes were doing something that, on a human face, Ellis would have called barely contained misery. She was cold, like genuinely, visibly trying not to show it cold. The shivering was subtle, small muscle contractions along her upper arms, the kind of thing you'd miss if you weren't looking. Ellis had been cold at a conference before, that exact brand of polite, professional suffering, standing in a room where you couldn't say anything about it because the setting wasn't about you. He felt for her. Honestly, just a normal, human, low-stakes kind of felt for her. He picked the last piece of lint off his sleeve, and he looked at the jacket. He thought in the most uncomplicated way a thought had ever occurred to him. She looks cold, and I have a thing that makes people warm. His boss was across the room, deep in conversation with the consortium rep. The formal ceremony was still 12 minutes out. Seraphil hadn't moved from her pillar. Around her, Ellis counted 3 other Rathani delegates doing the same lockdown thing with their posture, but they were all in clusters, all with someone to look occupied next to. She was alone. He crossed the room. He was aware distantly that he was walking toward the most prominent Rathani delegate at the entire summit. He was aware she was the daughter of someone whose name had 3 honorific prefixes. He was aware he was a junior attaché who had been in space for 11 weeks and had never successfully ordered food on any station that wasn't Earth-coded. He was also aware that she was shivering and he had a jacket. "And excuse me," he said. His voice came out steadier than expected. "I know we haven't been formally introduced, and I'm sorry to interrupt whatever I mean, you're not doing anything. I can see that. I just mean, sorry." He stopped. Tried again. "You look cold, and this is warmer than it looks." She turned to look at him. Close up, she was even more imposing. Ice blue eyes, an expression that could have meant anything, and a stillness that made Ellis feel approximately the size of a thumbtack. She didn't speak. He held out the jacket. She looked at it for a long moment. Then she looked at him. He had absolutely no idea what her face was doing. Then very slowly, she turned slightly. A small, precise movement, almost like she was giving him access. And Ellis, operating entirely on instinct and his grandmother's voice in the back of his head saying, "You don't let somebody shiver when you've got something warm," was stepped forward and settled the jacket over her shoulders. He stepped back, smoothed the collar out of habit. The room went quiet, not gradually, not as a ripple, all at once, like a sound file cut mid-sentence. Ellis looked up. 200 delegates were staring at him. Seraphel's silver face had gone violet from the cheekbones up. On the eastern tier, an elder was already rising. If you've been enjoying stories where one good instinct rewrites the entire diplomatic handbook, and the subscribe button is sitting right there, and things are about to get spectacularly worse before they get better. The elder's voice carried the kind of weight that made the air feel thicker. The bonding rite has been performed. The garment has been placed. The witnesses are present and recorded. Ellis heard the words. He processed them individually. He did not, in any meaningful sense, understand them. "I'm sorry," he said, to no one in particular. "See, the bonding—" "What?" Seraphil had not moved. The jacket sat across her enormous silver shoulders like a tea cozy on a monument. Her expression had shifted from lockdown composure to something Ellis couldn't parse at all. Eyes slightly wide, jaw not quite set, violet still climbing her cheekbones. Heron appeared at his elbow like a bad omen wearing sensible shoes. "Cade," she said very quietly, "what did you do?" She was cold. Heron closed her eyes for exactly 3 seconds. Wayne Ellis counted. "She was cold," Heron repeated. "I had the jacket." The elder was still speaking. Around the chamber, delegates had begun murmuring to each other, low, layered sounds in 6 different languages, and Ellis's translator earpiece was working overtime, spitting fragments at him. Witnessed. Traditional form. Binding. 1 galactic standard year. "Heron," he kept his voice low, "what is a bonding rite?" She opened her eyes, looked at him, looked at Seraphil. I'll look back at him with an expression that would have been funny under literally any other circumstances. "It's a declaration," she said. "You place a personal garment over someone's shoulders, in public, in front of witnesses. It means you're claiming them as your bonded pair." Ellis let that land. "I didn't propose," he said. From approximately 4 feet above him, without turning her head, Seraphil said, when perfectly clean standard. 200 people disagree. Her voice was low and precise. There was something in it that wasn't quite cold and wasn't quite warm, and was definitely doing something complicated that Ellis's nervous system had not been briefed on. He turned to look at her fully. She turned to look at him fully. This was the first time she'd aimed the full force of her ice-blue stare directly at him, close up, and it was a lot. It was genuinely a lot. "I didn't know," he said. "Wang, I genuinely, completely with my whole human heart did not know. I just thought you were shivering. I could see it. And it was cold. And I had it." Something shifted in her expression. Barely. A degree of movement. Maybe less. "You crossed a summit floor," she said slowly. "Past your delegation, past mine, to give a stranger a jacket, because she was cold. Yes. No strategy, no introduction, no political objective. I'm a junior attaché. I don't have political objectives. I have a name badge and a lanyard." The murmuring in the chamber had not stopped. If anything, it had acquired texture. Different now, less scandalized, more fascinated. Delegates were leaning toward each other. The elder had sat back down, watching with the calm patience of someone who had seen stranger things but was choosing not to let on. Seraphel looked at him for a long moment. Then she looked down at the jacket across her shoulders. The wool blend one. The cream-colored one with the fraying left cuff and the faint smell of cedar, and something older, something that had nothing to do with diplomatic stations and everything to do with a kitchen somewhere on Earth, and a woman who believed in keeping people warm. Her shoulders, Ellis realized, had stopped shaking. "One galactic standard year," she said. "That seems like a long time." "It is. And is there a form? Something I can sign? An appeal process?" For the first time, the corner of her mouth moved. It was not quite a smile. It was the thing that existed in the moment before a smile, the tectonic shift that preceded it. "There is not," she said. Ellis exhaled, looked out at 200 delegates who were all, to varying degrees, still looking back at him. Found Heron's face in the crowd. She had the expression of someone mentally composing an incident report and regretting her career choices. He turned back to Seraphil. "Okay," he said. "Then, I'm Ellis. On Ellis Cade. I'm very sorry about your year." She considered this. Then, with the gravity of someone who had been trained from birth to choose every word with precision and was now choosing to spend some of that precision on a 27-year-old human with a lanyard. "Seraphel ve Ithris. I am less sorry than I expected to be." 1 year later, the jacket still didn't fit her. It sat across her shoulders the same way it had in the summit chamber. Too short in the sleeve, pulling slightly at the back, and the left cuff fraying a little more now than it had before. Seraphel stood near the viewport of her family's diplomatic vessel, watching a station shrink behind them, and made no move to take it off. Ellis had stopped asking for it back around the 11th month. Somewhere between the third emergency trade negotiation they'd navigated together, and the night she'd explained, very seriously, that the cedar smell had become a known quantity, and known quantities were not to be discarded lightly, he'd quietly retired the question. The jacket held its shape against her silver shoulders. Outside, the stars did what stars do. Did Seraphel ever give it back? And does it count as theft if 200 people witnessed you receive it? Subscribe and find out what happens when tomorrow's story asks what comes after the accidental marriage survives its first year. Some bonds, it turns out, don't need a ceremony to become real.